Hey, it's Alicia from mobilitymastery.com, and I have got to get something off of my chest, and I want to invite you to explore something uncomfortable with me, because I believe we are in a real pickle right now. We are in a soup of unconsciousness around this thing that I want to talk to you about, I believe, and I'm unsure what the clear path out of this pickle looks like, and I have some ideas, and I want to invite you to help me here. This pickle that I believe that we're in is an inability to be with pain, and it is totally impacting us and not only not serving us, but I believe causing us a lot of it's to our detriment that we are not able to be with pain, because it is preventing us from self-healing, and it is preventing us from actively seeking out and finding skillful help for whatever pain we're in. And I'm going to use this word pain, but what I actually mean is anything in our life that feels uncomfortable or painful at the level of your body, so physical pain, at the level of your heart and your psyche, so psycho-emotional pain, or the level of maybe your soul and spirit self, so more that psycho-spiritual pain of purpose and who am I and what's my place in the world. I'm just everywhere I'm looking right now, I'm seeing an inability to really be with pain. And I want you to maybe check in and just check what I'm saying against your personal experience right now. When was the last time you recall bringing a tangible, palpable, real pain to someone, whether it was a physical injury or an emotional hurt, and had that person really receive you in a full way that had you feeling really safe to be with your pain, but not only that, helped you see that this pain didn't have to actually be scary at all, and in fact was telling you something really important about your current life experience. And without that knowledge, you probably would continue on and actually become even less healthy. So I know that was like a really long-winded question, but to me, like, that happens very, very rarely. For example, if you get hurt and you go to the doctor, I mean, one of the primary things they're going to do is give you a pain, killer of some kind, or prescribe over the counter. They might splint it for you, or put a brace on it. They might give you a cortisone injection. They might, look at surgery, usually not first, right, down the road if it doesn't, if you don't recover. But typically what most of us do, including professionals and practitioners, is our very first instinct is to help eliminate the pain of whoever is in front of us. And this is on a really personal, social level as well. Like, how many of you out there have the experience, I think every one of us, of going to a friend or a loved one and telling them something you're currently going through that feels emotionally challenging, and instead of them really listening and getting curious about that pain with you, they jump right into advice or taking your side or taking a side against someone else in your life perhaps, or jumping into fix-it mode. I think that is super common, and it has a lot less to do with masculine and feminine than we often talk about, because I think even us women tend to jump into solutions. They're just maybe a bit more on the emotional side of things, but there's this tendency not to go, oh wow, I'm so glad your body's talking to you, or you feel grief-stricken right now, like, let's dive into that, right? It's like uncomfortable. So I really want to know in the comments below if you identify with this. I think we all do to an extent, and it primarily has to do with the fact that nobody taught us when we were young that pain is normal, that pain is a part of life, that we feel things that are uncomfortable and they don't have to be scary. Instead, what we're taught is that pain is ultimately very terrifying and you should avoid it at all costs. So at the first sign of pain, like I'm not a mom yet, but I remember my mom, oh no, oh my God, are you okay, honey? Like freaking out, her nervous system got overactivated. And as a result, I learned that, scraping my knee might mean like I'm in deep trouble instead of like, oh, you just scraped your knee, you'll be fine. Your body is amazing at healing. It's going to create, blood's going to pool there and it's going to create a scar, and that scar is going to, help your body heal, and then your body will actually like eliminate the scar. Your body is amazing, like very few people teach us this. I want to actually honor my mom right now because she, on the opposite side of things, she was very terrified of like physical danger. But she did teach me a lesson when I was really young that I've never forgotten. And I think it has had a profound impact on me. I remember getting a fever when I was sick. I think I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. I had a cold or a flu or something, and I had a fever, and it was uncomfortable for me and maybe a little scary. And I remember my mom telling me that the fever was nothing to be afraid of, that it was actually my body's mechanism by which it was going to help me heal, that there was something going on that my body needed to take care of, and the fever was my body's way of taking care of it. And that lesson like landed so strongly in me, I think I've carried it into a lot of the other realms of my life, despite some of the other ways my mom couldn't be with my pain. But primarily we learn this in our family unit, and then we start learning it outside the family unit as well. But this inability to be with pain. And I have this definition here on the board, which I've shared numerous times in many places, including my online courses, but it's a definition of pain that I love. And it is, I should have put it on the board, but Thomas Myers, it's a quote from him. I'm unsure whether he got it from somewhere else or if it's a direct quote of his, but I would like to credit him here. And that quote is, pain is sensation accompanied by the motor intention to run away. And if we take away what's accompanying initially the definition of pain, which is this motor intention to run away, all that we are left with is sensation. Boom. So pain is sensation. Maybe, right? So I actually have a question for you right now where I want you to try on these definitions of pain, because I would actually say that pain isn't necessarily sensation, because if you take away the motor intention to run away, all that's left is sensation. And there you go. So there's a symphony of sensation happening in our bodies at all times, and it's going to be at the physical level. And then sometimes the sensations that we're feeling are the physical accompaniment of emotional, reactions or responses to our current life experience. I have another definition that I love of feelings, and to me, feelings are emotions plus sensations. We have emotions and we have physical sensations, and the combination of the two create our feelings. But for example, for you to be able to actually tune into your body, assess what's happening, and determine I feel sad, that's a process that happens internally because of the sensations you're feeling that are associated with the meaning you, or maybe we, or your family, I don't know, wherever you learned it, ascribe sadness to. What I find really interesting to contemplate is, what about the nuance and the difference between, say, sadness and anguish or despair or grief or heartbreak, right? Or sorrow. These are actually all nuanced sensations, feelings, and emotions that we are capable of feeling, and yet I think most of us have lost the ability to tune into the nuance. And so we have these like catch-all emotions that we can identify, and we primarily only feel and label those things, and it's like sadness, happiness, anger, and frustration, something like that. And then if we are pretty self-aware, we might be able to tune into shame and grief and loneliness and some of those. But a few of the ones I mentioned earlier, I think very few of us can name and how it feels in our body. So despair or anguish or sorrow, like what is the difference between sorrow and sadness, or sorrow and grief? I think it's a really interesting thing to ask ourselves and to think about. But I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, and I apologize, but this is like topic feels so important to me. And the reason I'm bringing up emotions right now, primarily, is because I believe it's primarily our terror or fear of emotional discomfort of all kinds, emotional pain, that precipitates and results in our inability to be with physical pain in a curious way, in a way that allows us to actually receive messages and not be scared of the pain, but to actually tune in and know what to do about it. I don't necessarily think it's the other way around. I don't think our inability to be with physical pain precipitated, maybe historically or evolutionarily, our inability to be with discomfort at the emotional level. That's just my belief. I would love to hear what you think below. But primarily, when we're babies, we're extremely physically resilient, right? We can actually fall and almost bounce across the floor and not hurt ourselves when we're babies because we're made up mostly of water. We're extremely resilient. And yet the focus of our learning what it means to be a human being when we're little, when we're a baby and then a toddler, and then a child, has to do with these emotions. And it has to do with our relationship to other human beings primarily. And that landscape is the landscape of emotion. And for the most part, I think we're not meeting each other in those emotions in a way that allows us to feel safe no matter what is being felt or expressed. So I don't know about you, but in my family growing up, if I felt anger or shame or sadness in relation to my family members, it was not met well. And to no fault of my parents, no one taught them. And this is the pickle I believe that we're in. So I want to circle back around to that. This pickle that I believe we're in is like, in order for us to heal as individuals, it's critical that we find other human beings who can meet us in our pain and allow us to feel safe to not only feel it, but express it. So it's one thing to have the internal experience of actually feeling your feelings and for you to allow it and get comfortable with it. But I think it's especially healing when we can express it and be met fully in it. I think that actually is the thing that fully dissipates it, integrates it, metabolizes it, and then allows us to move forward in life. And yet, because nobody is teaching us how to do this, most of the places we turn to do that for, whether it's in friendships or intimate relationships or with therapists and doctors, they aren't meeting us. So it's this pickle we're in, right? And I'm personally experiencing this on numerous levels. It was my number one number one most traumatizing thing to me in regards to my emotional health and my emotional trauma from childhood was I believe that we can resolve emotional trauma really quickly when we're met in our pain and by other human beings and allowed to assimilate that experience that maybe was really painful and then move on. But it's ultimately really painful to try to express our authentic feelings of rage, of anger, of injustice, of grief, of all of it, and to not be met, or to not only not be met, but perhaps feel re-traumatized because what's coming at us from the other side is maybe, suggesting to us, someone is suggesting to us, and maybe we're taking it on, that we don't feel things correctly, that we didn't assess things correctly, that our feelings right now are so disturbing to them that it's ultimately jeopardizing our relationships. So I think this comes down to wanting to belong, wanting to feel safe in our relationships and to have community and connection and family. However, a lot of that is coming at the expense of us being with our authentic selves in all the ways that we are, which includes pain. And so the only way that I see forward right now, or the one that makes the most sense to me, because it's the only thing that any of us have control over, is it's not going to do any good to sit at home and lament about this and despair about this and wish that out there, everyone out there would change, that the therapists would get training on this, that the doctors would, and that our friends would, or that our family would, right? The only thing that we can really do is cultivate our own capacity to be with pain. And by doing that, you actually become someone who helps to heal the world, because the people in your life will feel that you are a safe person to be themselves with. And I think there's probably nothing more healing than that we could ask for on this planet right now. Because I think we're up shit creek, to be honest. I think in so many ways, we are physically very ill right now. We're diseased. We're facing all kinds of, physiological issues from toxicity and poor food, right? And we're also dying to be heard, to be our authentic selves, to find our purpose, to know who we are, and to feel fully expressed in the world. And yet we're up against this paradigm that we've created together historically as human beings. And so I think that the way forward is for us to take responsibility for what we can do, and that is to be with our own pain, and then to be with that of others in our lives, right? Our loved ones, our friends, and our community, and even online. So I invite you right now to get on this mission with me here at Mobility Mastery, to destigmatize pain, to make it less scary, to actually befriend it, and in doing so, gain a lot of spiritual capacities that are going to benefit the rest of your life as well. So I definitely mean physical pain and emotional. If I had to pick only one for you to work on, to be with, that would affect the rest of your life, it would be the emotional, because I think your ability to be with the uncomfortable emotions will directly impact your ability to be with the physical. Why? Because when we're physically injured or physically in pain, it triggers a cascade of emotions that are hard for us to be with too, like, oh my God, I'm afraid I'm never going to run and hike again, or I'm afraid I'm defective, or I'm afraid I'm weak, or any number of things, right? When we are physically injured and don't have emotional capacity, it's very difficult to be with that physical pain because of the meaning we ascribe to it on an emotional level. So that is my rant about this, and the title of this video was "You are not as fragile as you've been led to believe," and you're not. You are by design built for consciousness, for capacity, and for sensation above, maybe not above all, but to me, this is actually where we can tap into our self-awareness, becoming more conscious, and cultivating all of those capacities I just talked about, is to be with sensations, period. Be with feelings, all of them. So that's what I've got for you today. I usually want to have a takeaway for you, something you can do, an action step. I guess what I would ask of you, or ask if you're willing to do this for yourself, and I hope you are, that whatever you're currently going through in life, because I guarantee you, unless you're an alien, there's something going on in your life right now that's uncomfortable to some degree. Whatever it is in your life that has your attention right now that feels uncomfortable, try to turn towards it and be with it and cultivate curiosity. That is the number one thing I would want to implore you to do, is to not simply endure it. That's not what I'm talking about. But to actually turn towards whatever's happening and go, wow, I feel a deep ache in this area of my body. It also feels like this. Start naming it and describing it. I notice I feel really scared right now, or whatever it is, but like be with it and then get curious about what that pain is actually trying to tell you. And pain will get less and less scary for you until perhaps one day it's not scary at all. And in fact, maybe you don't even orient to pain as a concept. Maybe there's just sensation. Maybe there's, uncomfortability. Maybe there's challenge and struggle and all that comes with that, right? But maybe it doesn't have to be pain, which is, that motor intention to run away. So it is our intention to run away from things that actually causes them to be painful. So I hope that is making sense and landing with you. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope that you're ready to join me on this mission, because I truly believe we could help to heal not just each other, but the world.